Life was easy for Buck. He was the undisputed king of a sprawling estate in California's sunny Santa Clara Valley. Part St. Bernard, part Scotch Shepherd, he was a magnificent animal, strong and proud. He spent his days roaming the grounds, swimming in the pool and enjoying the adoration of Judge Miller's family. He knew nothing of hardship, nothing of hunger, nothing of fear. His world was one of comfort, a warm fireside, and the gentle hands of humans who loved him. He was a lord in his own domain, a civilized dog living a pampered existence, completely unaware of the primal instincts that lay dormant deep within his very soul. But, civilization is a thin veneer, easily stripped away. Buck's idyllic life came to a sudden, brutal end. The Klondike gold rush had created a desperate demand for strong dogs, and Buck was a prime target. Betrayed by a treacherous gardener, he was lured away, choked into submission with a rope, and thrown into a crate. The world he knew vanished in a horrifying whirlwind of confusion and pain. He was no longer a king, he was cargo. Shipped north by train and boat, he was thrust into a new reality, a world of cruelty and chaos he could not comprehend. His trust in humanity was shattered. The journey north was a terrifying ordeal, a blur of jolting movements and the snarling of other captured animals. He was passed from one rough hand to another, each exchange marked by brutality. For 2 days and nights he was given neither food nor water. Rage and indignation burned within him, a fire of wounded pride. When his crate was finally opened in Seattle, he exploded forth, a four-legged fury intent on tearing his tormentors apart. He was met not with fear but with the cold, hard reality of a club. A man in a red sweater taught him his first brutal lesson of this new world. A man with a club is a master to be obeyed. It was a lesson beaten into him, one he would never forget. This was the beginning of his transformation. The pampered pet was gone, replaced by a caged beast, seething with a newfound cunning. The blow from the club had not just broken his spirit, it had awakened something ancient and wild within him. He learned to submit, but he did not surrender. He was watching, learning, his intelligence adapting to this savage new existence. The journey continued, taking him further and further away from the warm sun of California and deeper into the cold, white silence of the north. His untamed adventure had begun, and the wild was waiting to test his very essence. Buck's arrival in the Klondike was a shock to his system. The moment he stepped off the boat, the biting cold of the Alaskan air hit him like a physical blow. Snow and ice stretched as far as the eye could see, a stark, unforgiving landscape. He saw a group of wolf-like dogs, lean and tough. He witnessed a swift, merciless fight where a dog named Curly was torn to pieces by the pack for simply showing weakness. This was his second great lesson. There was no fair play in the wild. Once you were down, that was the end. He was sold to 2 French-Canadian dispatchers, Perrault-François. He was put into a harness for the first time. The work was grueling, pulling a heavy sled over treacherous terrain for endless miles. His body, soft from a life of leisure, ached with the strain. His paws were cut and bruised from sharp ice and frozen ground. Hunger became a constant, gnawing presence. He learned to eat anything, no matter how foul, and to eat it quickly, before it was stolen by the other dogs. He was no longer Buck, the estate ruler. He was a sled dog, a mere cog in a machine that moved the mail across the frozen wastes. The lead dog was Spitz, a treacherous white husky who saw Buck as a threat from the very beginning. Spitz ruled the team with an iron jaw. He tormented Buck, stealing his food and undermining him at every turn. Buck learned to sleep in the snow, digging a burrow against freezing nights. He learned to steal food to survive, his civilized morals eroding under the pressure of hunger. His muscles hardened, his senses sharpened. The transformation was happening deep within his blood and bone. He shed layers of his old life one by one. His heritage, the long line of wild ancestors, began to stir. He was becoming more cunning, more patient, more ruthless. The fight with Spitz was inevitable, a clash for dominance the pack anticipated. Buck was adapting, learning the ways of the wilderness. He tapped into primal strength he never knew he possessed. The call of his ancient past grew louder, a whisper becoming a persistent hum. The simmering conflict between Buck and Spitz finally boiled over into a fight to the death. It was a brutal, epic struggle under the pale light of the aurora borealis. Spitz was a seasoned killer, swift and deadly. But Buck had something more, imagination. He used his intelligence to outwit his rival, breaking Spitz's legs, then closing in for the final decisive move. With Spitz's defeat, the pack fell silent. Buck, bloody but victorious, stood over his fallen enemy. He had challenged the leader and won. Having earned his place, Buck demanded the leadership of the sled team. Francois tried to place another dog, Solex, in the lead. Buck refused to take his place in the line. He had fought for the top spot and would accept nothing less. Perrault recognized Buck. Francois recognized Buck. They had no choice but to concede. They put him at the front of the team. Buck learned the North's law. Leadership is taken, not given. He became the master of the pack. Under Buck's leadership, the team improved. He was a natural leader, firm but fair. He brought discipline and unity, pushing them to their limits, inspiring new performance. The team made record time. Their reputation spread across the Yukon. Buck felt fierce pride in his work, deep satisfaction in the toil of the trace and trail. He was in his element, a wild instinct and intelligent purpose, born to lead in this harsh world. But the North is relentless. Men are easily broken, dogs are easily broken. After a grueling journey, the team was sold to new owners, inexperienced gold seekers from the South, Hal, Charles, Mercedes. These new masters were foolish and unprepared. They overloaded the sled. They mismanaged food supplies. They treated the dogs with cruelty. They treated the dogs with incompetence. For Buck and the team, this was a descent into a new kind of hell. The journey with Hal, Charles and Mercedes was a nightmare of starvation and overwork. The dogs grew weaker by the day, their bodies wasting away under impossible loads and lack of food. When the team reached the thawing ice of the White River, Buck instinctively knew the danger. He refused to move, sensing impending disaster. At that moment of ultimate despair, John Thornton intervened. Thornton, an experienced woodsman, saw the cruelty of the situation. He cut Buck free from his traces just moments before the ice gave way. Hal, Charles, Mercedes, the remaining dogs, Buck had been saved. Not by his own strength, but by the compassion of a human. Thornton nursed Buck back to health, his gentle hands and kind voice healing Buck's wounds. For the first time since California, Buck experienced genuine love. With John Thornton, Buck found a different kind of life, a balance between the wild, the domestic. He developed an all-consuming devotion to Thornton, a fierce, passionate adoration. He would do anything for this man, follow him anywhere. He saved Thornton from drowning in a raging river, defended him against a malicious attacker, proving his loyalty again and again. Their bond was legendary throughout the Yukon. Buck found contentment in Thornton's companionship, a peace he had never known. He loved his master with every fibre of his being, a testament to the bond between man and beast. Yet, even in the warmth of Thornton's campfire, the call of the wild echoed. A deep ancestral song pulled at him, drawing him toward the deep forest. He spent long periods away from camp, running with a timber wolf he had befriended, exploring the untamed wilderness. He hunted and killed his own food, his primal instincts fully awakened. Torn between two worlds, his profound love for John Thornton, the irresistible lure of the wild. He was a king in both realms, but could not remain in both forever. A choice was coming, one that would define his ultimate destiny. The call grew stronger, an undeniable force pulling Buck deeper into the forest. His excursions became longer, his connection to the wild more profound. He answered the howl of the wolf, a sound that resonated with something ancient within him. He was becoming a creature of the shadows, a ghost of the forest. His senses honed to a razor's edge. He hunted mighty prey, stalking for days. He brought down a massive bull moose. This hunt was his final mastery of the wild, the ultimate test of his strength, cunning, endurance. He had proven himself not just a survivor, but a true predator. While Buck was away on his great hunt, tragedy struck. The Yehats attacked John Thornton's camp. When Buck returned, he found devastation. He smelled the scent of death and found his beloved master slain. A terrible, all-consuming rage erupted within him, a fury born of love and loss, the final severing of his ties to the world of men. He attacked the Yehats with the force of a demon, a whirlwind of fang and claw. He was no longer a dog, he was an avenging spirit of the wild. The slaughter was terrifying. The Yehats had never faced such a creature. Buck was a blur of motion tearing through their ranks, driven by grief turned lethal. He was the embodiment of the wild's fury. The surviving Yehats fled in terror, spreading tales of a ghost dog. Buck had avenged his master, but his heart was empty. The last link to humanity was broken. He stood alone amid the ruins. With nothing left to hold him back, Buck turned his back on the world of man. He heard the call of the wolf pack the song of his wild brothers. He joined them, but not as a follower. After a fierce battle to prove his dominance, he became their leader. He was faster, stronger, more intelligent. He had answered the call of the wild. The legend grew of the ghost dog at the head of the pack, a magnificent creature with a splash of color on his chest, a splash of color on his nose, leading his brothers through the long, cold nights. He had found his true place not as a pet, not as a sled dog, but as a master of the untamed world. Every dog lover should read this book, Call of the Wild by Jack London, and please take one moment to click the subscribe button below. It greatly helps us to bring you more of these stories to YouTube. Thank you.